What's up, homies? I hope you had a good week. If not, I got you on this Good Friday because we got a lot of good stories. Shout out to one subscriber last week. We got our first subscriber. This week, we're talking about a lot, y'all. We got streamers and Streamer University shouting out Jesus like crazy. We've got America's favorite quarterback, or was our favorite quarterback, making moves not just on the field, but also in the Senate. We have India, one of the largest points of drug trafficking in the world, having a massive revival right now. We're officially about to start using AI and chemistry to help us decode one of the oldest texts that we have in our faith. And we got a man who has lived in isolation most of his life just to reach people in the Amazon. We're talking about all of that and more here on this Good Friday. So strap in, get ready, because it's about to be a good Friday.
Good Friday. Good Friday. Good news of the week coming your way.
Okay, our first story comes out of Conway, Arkansas. Yes, I said Arkansas, because Streamer University happened this past week. Now, for everybody that instantly wants to tune out because you're older and you hear Streamer University, I just want to paint this picture for you. Streaming is one of the fastest growing by capital industries that there is today. Okay, your kids probably watch a streamer. Your younger friends probably don't watch a streamer, but they follow them because streaming is such a big deal in Gen Alpha today and Gen Z. So whether you like it or not, you need to understand it. So we're going to break it down. What is a streamer? A streamer is just somebody that goes live and documents whatever they want to document. You have streamers that document themselves playing video games and it's live. You have some streamers who just document their life. You have some celebrities who have gotten into the streaming game now because it's so equitable. Streaming is just the modern day reality TV that is live and that is controlled by the creator. So I want you to imagine this. For everybody that grew up in the same era I grew up in, all right, the 90s. Imagine MTV with the height of all of the TV shows that it had. I'm talking you had Punk'd. I'm talking you had Pimp My Ride. You had Jersey Shore. You had Ridiculousness. You had all of these shows. I want you to imagine that every single one of those shows and those people who hosted it all got together for an entire weekend and just constantly let the cameras roll. That is what Streamer University is. It is essentially your kids, your younger friends, favorite people getting together to live stream 24/7. That's what Streamer University is. And Streamer University was started last year by Kai Cenat. And Kai Cenat is arguably, by metrics, either number one or top three most watched streamers, period. He started Streamer University last year more as a fun joke and a fun way to get all the creators together, and it turned into something that went incredibly viral and actually helped a lot of new creators get put on to a lot of people and help educate some people that didn't really know how far their streaming could go. Like I said, this is an entire business now. And the reason I'm painting this picture so big is because if you don't understand that world, then we have to understand why this story is even a part of Good Friday to begin with. Kai Cenat Streamer University had over 1 million applicants and only 0.12% made it in to Streamer University. 100 people. Harvard's acceptance rate is 4.2%. It was harder to get into Kai Cenat's Streamer University than it was to Harvard. Oh, and by the way, whenever you roll up to Harvard for the first day, your parents may drop you off and they're excited that you're going to Harvard. Nobody else cares. You know how many people lined the streets as every single one of these streamers were going in to Arkansas? Ridiculous. The college was flooded with people just trying to see all of these streamers. It is that big of a deal for a new generation, the same way that reality TV was for you, or the same way that Michael Jackson was for the older generation, or Elvis was for the generation before that. These are the new it.
So much so that they didn't just have streamers there. They had Lizzo, an award-winning artist. They had Mr. Beast, one of the richest content creators ever. He just left briefcases of thousands of dollars around campus. This is how big Streamer University is. This happened July 15th through July 20th. We're actually filming this on the last day of Streamer University. And 3 streamers in particular really showed out while they were there. Their content names are Juicy Jacob, Chris Gone Crazy, and Naya Love. Now, Chris Gone Crazy and Naya Love are actually in a relationship, and Chris has gone mega viral many times, and he's well known for making a life with Jesus fun. Naya, she posts more lifestyle video and content, and then Juicy Jacob has more hilarious content, right? It's just outlandish, it's off the wall. He posts himself dressed up as different things and just doing crazy stuff, right? It's more entertainment focused. But for a lot of us who are younger, and for the younger generation coming up, this is how we reach them. It is through their phone, so there's no point in trying to get them off of it. The goal is to try to give them something on it that's beneficial for their life. Now, after going through orientation and getting settled, a good bit of them got to go into Kai Cenat's office and just say what's up for about 20 seconds. And as soon as Chris got in there, one of the first things he said was, yo, I'm gonna be doing a Bible study while I'm here. If you wanna hop in, hop in. And Kai was like, for real? Tell me the days and I'll be there. Now, when those of us who watched that in real time or on your social media feed saw that, you probably thought, man, Kai got 50,000 things going on. He is not really going to show up to that. Which, if he would be a massive deal because he has so much going on in those 5 days. Turns out, he actually did end up going. At some point, Naya and Chris and Juicy ended up, I can't believe I just called him Juicy, Jacob ended up doing a couple of Bible studies throughout, and people started to slowly trickle in, and some of these went up to an hour. Like, they would just be reading the Bible, talking about Jesus, and letting people come and go as they wanted. And it was really, really cool to see. And at one point, Kai started to come in, and there was a moment where he even talked a little bit about his faith. Now, Kai Cenat, to be clear, has never been quiet about his faith. He's always talked about how much he loves faith and how dear that is to him. But he ended up sharing a little bit more and even praying with everybody. And the reason that this is so dope is because it's a completely different generational shift. Regardless of how you feel about this story, how you feel about where entertainment is right now, and how you feel about streamers, it doesn't really matter, because every single one of us in our own generation have had people that we looked to and that did things a little bit differently, even if we didn't understand it. So as people who are looking at the younger generation and who want to say, oh, they're so lost, they're so gone, we're so screwed, the good news is we have people in every single field, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a librarian, or whether you're a streamer, that love Jesus so much that wherever they go, they're like, yo, I'm here and we here to stay. And that is a beautiful, beautiful story of what God is doing in the younger generation. So shout out to Jacob, shout out to Naya, shout out to Chris. Yo, we love you, homie. Y'all doing the Lord's work. Keep doing it. So this next story of the Tim Tebow Foundation is near and dear to my heart. The Tim Tebow Foundation was founded in 2010, stretches over about 115 different countries, and they really have 4 main focus areas: anti-trafficking and child exploitation, orphan care, special needs, and medical assistance. In the United States, 89,000 children identify as victims of SA. And the fact that he had to bring this to our Senate is ridiculous, because Homeland Security, which is what he's asking funding for, only has 7 dedicated investigators for child SA material online. 7. McDonald's has more workers in a single day at one location than our Homeland Security has against child SA. That is a problem. And it all paid off, thank God, because in June, this act was passed, which is going to help fund $108 million taxpayer dollars towards Homeland Security to build a dedicated, cohesive team to help stop this child SA material from being distributed and downloaded. As someone with kids, man, this one's always just, it doesn't make me sad. It really, oh my, it gets me. Because what do you mean 7 people? What do you mean 7 people? Anyway, shout out to Tim Tebow. Shout out to his foundation. Shout out to everybody that's doing the Lord's work out there. Because you also have organizations like Christine Cain's A21, who also really helps with trafficking. What they've done with their organization is just absolutely incredible. The stats there, that would have to be a whole nother video. So thank God that we have people like that who not only have the resources, but also have the heart to really push for change like this in our system. Thank you. Okay, I have a would you rather. Would you rather go to 5 different grocery stores and get 5 different things that you need, or would you rather have one grocery store that you go to that has all of your favorite things? Feels like a no-brainer. And that's because it is, which is why we created the Homey app. The Homey app holds everything that you need in one place. If you're like me and you talk a lot, you can send somebody a voice memo prayer on there. You can start live streams on there, or just post your prayer and praise reports. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe you say, I just need to be challenged in my faith. Perfect. We have weekly challenges for you that go along with our coffee table book devotionals. You can buy a coffee table book, have a beautiful evangelistic tool when people come into your home and say, "Ooh, what is that?" And also have weekly challenges that go along with exactly what you're reading. It doesn't matter what you're looking for. There's no place like Homey. It's free, it's accessible, and it's a place where you can watch your faith grow. So go over to the App Store, download the app, add me into that community so that I can see your prayer and praise reports, and then invite your other friends on there so they can be the growth app that you want it to be. That's all we got for you. Let's get back to the episode. And thank God we have more than just one Tim Tebow, because we also have another man who has lived most of his life in isolation simply to reach people that live in the Amazon, one of the most undiscovered places in the world. No, you didn't hear me. In the Amazon rainforest, there's something called a bullet ant. And a bullet ant sting is said to last for 24 hours. It has literally debilitated people from walking because it feels like they got shot. Nope. Okay. Still don't. All right, cool. We've only discovered 60% of the Amazon rainforest. You know what? I may have actually said that backwards. I think we've only discovered 40% and there's still 60% to be discovered. I'm going to fact check that. It's actually going to be on the screen. The Amazon rainforest has species that we as humans have never seen. Did you know that they just discovered a new monkey in the Amazon rainforest? This was recent, by the way. A new species of monkey. And that's a monkey. Okay, now that we're done with that. Okay, now that you fully understand the picture, Ezekiel Santo was called by God at 15 to reach the people of the Amazon. And he has dedicated 32 years of his life to the Amazon. Now let me paint this picture for you of travel. Because the Amazon rainforest is so dense, so undiscovered, first you would have to travel from Rio to Belém, and that takes 6 days by bus. And then you would have to take another boat that takes another 6 days. And then once you get to such a part of the river that you can't go by boat anymore, you have to canoe. You have to paddle, and sometimes that can be another 15 days. Some journeys are as long as 35 days one way, just to get to a single community. And if you're like me, then the hardest part of that actually wouldn't be the travel. It would be the isolation. Traveling for days on end, sometimes by riverside, maybe with a couple of people, but also having to live with a bunch of these indigenous communities, some that you probably can't even speak their language. Some have probably never seen outside communication before. And we're talking about something that is such an incredible feat, not just on the human body with travel, but on the human mind and spirit. So shout out to Ezekiel for constantly letting God use him and dedicating his life from the age of 15 to reaching people that most people have never thought about in their life. Some of us have never thought about the people who are isolated in the Amazon rainforest once. We'll think about Jamaica. We'll think about Haiti. We'll think about China. But we don't think about the believers who are yet to be believers. that nobody just took the time to reach. So shout out to Ezekiel, because you want to know how many people have been baptized in the first 6 months of 2026 with him and his leaders? 14,000. So incredible that CBN itself reported on it. And that is good news. But he's not the only one crossing borders. I want you to paint this picture in your head, all right? Think about your city. Think about where your homeless typically stay. Think about the areas of town where people are most likely to be strung out on drugs. Think about the area in town that's most impoverished. I want you to imagine that, and then I want you to think about that times 1,000. Because in India's northeastern district, 9 to 10% of kids 10 to 17 years old are addicted to drugs. I don't think you heard what I just said. 10 to 17. We're not talking about adults. We're talking about adolescents. I want you to think about that. If I lined up 10 of your friends' kids right now in front, one of them would be addicted to opioids or heroin or marijuana or alcohol. That is insane. And over 20% of the people there are addicted to opioids. And a big reason for that is because this community is found in the Golden Triangle. And the Golden Triangle is found along a river that connects the borders of about 5 different countries. And it's known to be one of the largest distributors of heroin and opioids. Primarily Myanmar, which has caused a local crisis because not only is it produced there, but people who are there are addicted to it. But over the past 5 to 6 years, the city of Zero has started to see a massive shift in the youth specifically, which is beautiful because of the number of 9 to 10% of them are addicted to these drugs. And this movement really started to bubble up in April 2026 when they had an event called Awakening Zero. And all of these youth came to this event where there was worship, prayer, a message, and ended up leaving changed than when they walked in. Sources say it was around 1,000 young people specifically who showed up to this event. One 23-year-old was even quoted saying he was raised by his mother and ended up getting addicted to alcohol and marijuana as he grew up. And another one whose name was Pali ended up saying, I experienced God's tangible presence for the first time when the pastor prayed over me. And Dusu, which, by the way, great name, homie. The general secretary of the Christian Council was quoted as saying, the youth who were once addicted to drugs are at the center of a revival in Zero. So over these next weeks, let's heavily pray for everything that's happening in Zero, India, so that the expansion of the gospel can keep moving and these kids can genuinely get free from these addictions. Not just these kids, but also their parents who are probably addicted and the community that is suffering because of opioid, heroin, and all of the other drug use. And rounding out the news today, our last story is kind of like last week's, where we are talking about how AI and chemistry is going to be helping us decipher the oldest text that we have in our faith. That's right, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, if you don't know about the Dead Sea Scrolls were found back in 1940. The Dead Sea Scrolls are some of the most important archaeological finds, period. So if you don't know much about the history of the Bible, one fact is that most of the Old Testament is written in Hebrew. And the New Testament, it spans a couple of them, Aramaic, Hebrew, Greek, but the main one is Hebrew. And this is the oldest copied text that we have ever found of the Old Testament. And here's the thing, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in a bunch of random Judean caves close to Qumran. We don't know who wrote these. We don't know where they wrote these. We don't know anything about them. It's a 70-plus-year-old mystery. But it was announced that the European Research Council, in partnership with the Israel Antiquities Authority, was going to fund a $2.5 million research team led by Professor Popovich of the Netherlands. So to understand what they're trying to do, we're going to walk through a three-step process. First, they're using chemistry. Second, they're using intelligence. And third, they're going to use some cross-references. So they are going to examine 250 different parchment and papyrus samples. And what they're going to do with those is they are going to pull out the raw data of those and the Dead Sea Scrolls using chemistry to figure out where those raw elements came from. Where did they originate from? That whether it's the ink, whether it's the parchment paper and papyrus paper itself. Then what they're going to do is they're going to use artificial intelligence to help weed through the patterns, because there are so many patterns that the human eye would miss a lot of them. So they're going to use AI to weed out and find things that we would miss with our regular eye. And third, they're going to get all of that data and start to cross-reference it or fuse it with paleography, codicology, and language analysis. And essentially that just means they're going to try to figure out how the handwriting was, the margins, the columns. They're really just gonna dig deep into all of that to see which cultures did what most frequently, and it's a whole thing. But the goal of the IAA isn't actually to study the Dead Sea Scrolls. The goal of the IAA is to create the first large-scale map that will help them then use this technology on their other 25,000 fragmented scrolls. Now, the reason this is important is because in this process, we get two things. One, as believers, we get to understand more about the history of our scripture by finding out where these scrolls were written, who wrote them, how they were preserved so well, and everything in between. But for society as a whole, this is so important because if they do this right, we will be able to do this with multiple different historical documents that we have that have been withered away and lost through time and only have fragments of themselves left. And that is the important piece, because not only will we be able to benefit in our faith, but the world will also be able to benefit. And the more discoveries that we do have in the future, because remember, this was 1940s. It's not like this happened in 1200. This was recent. And if we're still discovering things like this, imagine what we will discover when we have more technology. So the goal is to also use this for future discoveries so that we can then understand our history better, not just as believers, but as humans. And that is a really big win, especially when you have a huge debate going on right now on how AI even ties into the Bible and if we should be using it at all. Because any win that we can see as AI being used as a tool and not as a replacement for our brains that God gifted us with is something that we here on the channel want to celebrate. So shout out to the European Research Council and shout out to the IAA for funding this project. Hopefully it goes really, really well. But that's all we got for you today. We went through a plethora of topics. We try to keep it really broad on the channel because Jesus himself said Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. So we went all the way from Streamer University in Arkansas, all the way to the European Research Council and India, where they're struggling with opioids, but seeing a massive move of God. So hopefully one of those stories, if not all of them, made your day. And I hope you have, as always, a good Friday. We'll see you next week. I'm out.